and McLaughlin. Row 2, Waters and Davison. Yesterday's race was 1 hour and 47 minutes. A hot, hard test of driver and equipment. It'll be even tougher today. Whincup prevailed on Saturday, chased home by McLaughlin. At the end of this, the Superloop Adelaide 500 crown awaits, and a great start by McLaughlin. He might even have a car length over Van Gisbergen to turn 1, and he sweeps down and grabs the lead. So it's McLaughlin, Van Gisbergen, Waters to third, then Davison and Coulthard. Whincup's made a pretty handy start as well, but a ripping start by McLaughlin, and that's a difficult thing to do.
How aggressive was that by McLaughlin to turn across? Jack LeBrock out there in the weeds, just gets it pulled up before he made the fence on the left-hand side. That was James Courtney also in trouble. But how aggressive was that? He just turned it in. It was like he had blinkers on. He was a thoroughbred. He just turned it straight across the front of him and made it straight to the apex. That was bold.
Oh, and that was a touch of the wall. Price forward. Car number 2 actually whacked the exit wall at turn 7. He's got Andre Heimgartner underneath him in the number 7 Mustang, the white Ned racing entry. So he'll just need to be steady into turn 8 forward to make sure that everything's secure at the left rear corner of that car. McLaughlin's got the lead at the moment. It's 0.4 of a second over Van Gisbergen, and then it's Waters, Davison, Coulthard, Whincup. Oh, trouble down here at 9. Huge trouble. Deepest Wali's involved. Yep. Goddard's involved. Everybody else has managed to scramble around, but Anton's car looks like it's got broken right front suspension.
I think Scotty Pye's car is very damaged out of that too. I saw the Irwin Commodore, oh sorry, the DeWalt Commodore, there you go. I saw it come by me, and then I saw the Irwin car on the other side, and it looked okay. So this will be a safety car, I would think.
It was left front on Anton's car, and Pye in the wall as a part of the residual damage.
Oh, good move, Dave.
The inside by Reynolds, so he makes a nice move on Nick Percat at turn 4. Not easy to do there where it's a little bit bumpier, and the Vodafone safety car confirmed in the background. So that'll freeze the positions in the field while they recover this car, and that's awkwardly positioned just at the exit of turn 11.
Yeah, I saw a couple of the Team 18 cars go past me, and I thought originally it was the Irwin car, and then I caught a glimpse of how much damage was on Scott Pye's car. And that's obviously got a steering issue. So, and when we saw Anton's Penrite Commodore from the other side, there was more in this. So here we go, there's a lot of them. So there's the Irwin car that I saw with David Reynolds. So they go the other way around the outside. There's Scotty Pye straight in. That was Bryce forward. And nice presence of mind by Goddard to miss it all.
So let's have a look at this. I think it's the teammates that are actually making the contact. It is. It's David Reynolds that actually touched the right rear corner of Anton's car.
Yep.
And then what happened to Pye was he just tripped over in the traffic. I thought originally he was involved in this, but it was actually the 2 Penrite cars that found the same place on the map.
That's awkward.
And then it's the secondary part of the chaos and the traffic of everyone backing up. So, well, we didn't see it before the white, but Pye ended up tripping over the top of the traffic there. So that's the scene inside the Penrite Racing Garage. Glum faces in there.
Yeah. So that's what I caught the Irwin car first, and I thought he was involved, but he wasn't. So he did a good job, Mark Winterbottom, around the outside. So this is from the back of David Reynolds' car now. That's Jack LeBrock. So, very weird circumstance.
So they brought Courtney and Pither in.
Go.
Just to grab some fuel.
Under investigation, car.
9.99. Teammates. Because the fact that they're from the same team means nothing when it comes to the rule book. So if one of them's done the wrong thing, then that'll be investigated and resolved. Let's have a look at the replay of the start now. So focusing on McLaughlin furthest from camera, and even though he's on the dirty side at the start line, when he gets down to turn 1, it becomes the clean racing line, and that worked really well for him. But he's got a very good jump, but he just swept in, as Mark said in the call, and just took his track position as though it was a normal lap. On cold tyres, it's hard to do. Jamie got a great, Van Gisbergen got a great initial jump, but this was very impressive on the run down here, and he never looked like being headed.
It was so deep under brakes, wasn't it? He just basically said, I'm going to take this first corner off him. I mean, it was a great start. He was in the right spot. Now we're on board with Whincup. Bad start. there with Mostert. Way too much wheel spin. He gets to the inside.
But once again, Whincup next to no wheel spin. He's got those starts nailed at the moment, hasn't he?
He had to fan the throttle there slightly. And then you've got nowhere to go. So you're all parked up on the inside. It's a traffic jam on the way into turn 4. So that was a nice start by Whincup.
And he made a spot in the process. So that's turn 9. Anton De Pasquale's car up on the flatbed truck, just to be removed. And there's the other car that didn't have anything to do with the initial incident, but it was the secondary part of it.
This is always a pretty awkward one. Teammate hitting teammate. Baz, I think I see it pretty clearly, but from your point of view, can you see anything different?
No, not really. It's, yeah, Dave was trying to race from a position he shouldn't have been in, so yeah, shit happens, really. Can't do much about it.
That's racing in this this case?
It is, yep. No dramas.
Thanks, mate.
All right, so Barry, I mean, there's not much he can really do in those circumstances. Certainly not a lot of point in getting angry about it. I believe that James Courtney's in a position to be able to talk to us out there while we're under the safety car conditions. James, you on the line?
I am, Mr. Crompton.
How are you, sir?
Oh, it's pretty exciting.
Extremely formal.
I respect your elders, but
Very
there's
old.
someone older than me finally in the field. I'm the oldest boy. But no, in the start, good off the line, mate. But up into 3, got a little bit turfed in the rear and pushed wide, went back to last, and then everyone was parked up at the hairpin. So it was, yeah, it was pretty interesting.
I spoke to you this morning, and it was a bit of a miracle that the team were able to get that car repaired. The damage wasn't too bad, and prior to that, you had the fastest lap of the race.
Yeah, mate, the thing was hooked. We were going along pretty well at the time. The annoying part was, as I caught up to Andre, I was just like, oh, you know what? We're going pretty good. First race. Let's back out of it and just get through. And I must have just been in the Bermuda Triangle of aero wash, mate. It felt like the thing got lifted, fired me off to the into the fence. So, yeah, I felt for the boys. And, yeah, it's really upsetting. But we go around again today, and I'll stay out of that Bermuda Triangle this time.
I've never heard that before. That's a very good line, the Bermuda Triangle of aero wash.
Oh, mate, it was unbelievable. It created lift. I'd like to think the front wheels come off the ground. So.
All right, good job. Good luck this afternoon.
Cheers, lads.
I've never heard that of you, Neil.
No, that's a new one. So here's a replay of what was going on at the end of turn 4. LeBrock ended up high and wide. And that was the incident that James was just talking about in the conversation that dropped him to the back of the pack. So the lights are out now on the Vodafone safety car. All the debris and cars that have been damaged cleaned up. Thanks again to the marshals from Motorsport Australia, affiliated clubs, and all the hard work that they do around the racetrack to get things going. So right now it's maintaining speed, staying within 5 car lengths, no weaving. And McLaughlin's got control of the field from Van Gisbergen, Waters, Davison, Coulthard.
A lot of different techniques here. Communication with the team is really important now, because you need to know as soon as the safety car's in pit lane and the green flag out, because McLaughlin's got control of this restart. Now remember, he can overlap near the final corner here. He's given him a little bump just to say, hey, I'm here. But a beautiful exit by McLaughlin. Nicely done.
That worked out pretty well for him, because Shane was giving him a hurry up, and right at the moment where he had to lift the throttle was when Scott went and put the cushion back between them. McLaughlin bolts down the road.
Nice restart. Actually, everybody a nice restart. No one was out of kilter with the 5 car lengths. Everybody had a pretty good jump. And normally a safety car around here, you get some trauma or some issues up in turn 4. So that's beautiful. It's good that it keeps people in contention in this race, because we've been talking about it all weekend. There's probably 8 or 9 at least, now that Dave Reynolds is a little bit further down the road than we think. 8 or 9 that can win this.
Richard Harris just said to Scott McLaughlin on the radio, just to remind him that the pressures are low. So after everything cooled out during that safety car period, they lose a bit of tyre temperature and pressure in that process. So guy down the inside. And he was hurting yesterday when it took him about 50 laps to remember that the helmet fan wasn't on. He's already the lightest driver in the field. Had his tonsils out over the off-season and lost even more weight. He's got none to start with. So he was hurting, he was saying this morning. And though he's done the 12-hour before, said that because those cars have got traction control and ABS, it's all a bit easier. But this was a real wake-up call to the physicality of driving a supercar yesterday.
Scott Pye, very tough way to start the second day of the Adelaide500.
Yeah, just bummed. I mean, I feel so bad for these guys. They had the mechanical failure, which wasn't their fault on the first day with the suspension. And yeah, it's just some big nights this week. It's been a hard week for everyone in this championship with the test day and everything on Tuesday. And yeah, we always drivers want to reward our boys with something decent, and it's been a bloody hard weekend. And yeah, with things like that, it's unlucky, but it's just been sort of the tale of our weekend so far. So Control Alt Delete this one. Yeah, I just feel for the boys. It's just a shame.
Goal going in Melbourne. Thanks, Scott.
Thanks. Cheers. Thank you.
And while that interview was taking place, the Motorsport Australia race director, Tim Schenken's just called over the race management channel that it's a pit lane drive-through penalty for David Reynolds for the incident turn 9, lap 1 on his teammate, Anton Di Pasquale. So that further rubs salt into that wound. Not only have they got the prospect of an awkward debrief in that organisation during the week, but now David's got to trundle through the pit lane, which effectively destroys the afternoon. This is a run on Todd Hazelwood down the inside of turn 5. Plus fitness entry for Todd. Brad Jones Racing this year. And that's Anton's car out the back of the pit paddock and ready to be loaded into the transporter in preparation for the next outing. Now, Whincup and Reynolds in the lane here. Whincup's is for a stop. Reynolds is for a penalty. This is kind of what McLaughlin did yesterday.
2 more seconds. Get ready. Clear.
That's a lap earlier.
Go. Clear.
This is clever. So Jamie's got to go out there now and use the car pace.
And just quickly, guys, the fuel nozzle actually didn't connect very cleanly. There was a lot of fuel actually sprayed out when they tried to connect. So he lost probably, I would say, 1.5 to 2 seconds before the nozzle actually connected and sealed. But there was a fair bit of fuel dripping down the side of that car.
Yeah, well, it comes back later on, doesn't it, Murph, in terms of the time that you stopped. And if they didn't get the amount of fuel in they were looking for as part of that strategy, then you've obviously got to stop for longer later on. So we'll see how that pans out through the day. The thing that Whincup's got on his side is the raw car pace that we witnessed yesterday. So good battle going on here with the Tickford guys, with Cam Waters and Davison there in close proximity. Rick Kelly's in 7th, so McLaughlin, Meg Gisbergen, Waters, Davison, Coulthard, Mostert, Kelly, Holdsworth, who's just come in, Todd Hazelwood and Percat. Hazelwood is up 6 spots, so that's been a good job in the early stanza.
So more people doing today, which we suspected what we saw yesterday. They're adopting what they saw yesterday, giving drivers some fresh air, so they Holdsworth and Winterbottom into the lane. And all managed pretty simply and easily. And out goes Lee Holdsworth. He's got truck assist colours in 2020, and he's come out just in front of Jamie Whincup. So that's critical for him. And Whincup's on an already slightly warm tyre because he did it just a lap earlier. And this is where Lee will be under most pressure while those tyres are still coming up to temperature and pressure. He's got to try and make himself as wide as possible.
Well, this is wrecked it for Whincup. If he can't get Holdsworth, that whole strategy's over and out. So the clean air policy's just been totally negated.
So, and that often happens day on day because more people see it work well the first day and it gets adopted the second day. But the minute there's another vehicle around,
Mate, sort this out. I know you know.
Yeah, so David Cauchi, push hard to sort this out. I'm sure you know, and I'm sure he is well and truly aware of that. But it won't be an easy prospect because once Lee's tyres come up, which they're doing now, he's got quite a bit of grip to play with for the next several laps. And then as the 2 cars settle, that could cost you a long time for each of the cars, because not only is Jamie being affected, having to follow, but it also means that Lee's got to keep one eye out for Jamie, who's just in the rearview mirror constantly.
That's right. As I said earlier, there's a lot of copycats up and down this pit lane. There's a bump on the fence there. That was Hazelwood, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. Don't think there's too much damage out of that one. Hit it reasonably square, so when you hit it parallel like that, it's not too bad.
What was that?
I don't know. It looked like, was it a...
Somewhat bluffed. It's Mark Winterbottom's car.
Tail light lens by the look, wasn't it? like it. Yeah, I think it was.
So it's a 1.2 second margin, McLaughlin over Van Gisbergen at the moment, and it's 1.8 seconds between Van Gisbergen and Waters. You can see those margins on screen in the run to the final corner. There's the leader, second, and the gap to third. Will Davison's just neatly tucked in behind here in fourth. And McLaughlin continuing to do quick laps out there. So his first and third sector on that lap is good enough to give him a new fastest lap of the race, a 1 minute 21.06. Jack LeBrock, by the way, in the Super Cheap Auto Mustangs just come into the pit lane for his first stop and arrives on the spot nicely. 4 fresh Dunlop tyres on that car. BP Ultimate going in. And goes in at 3 3/4 litres per second. Looking for the lights on the refueling rig. And away he goes. So a pretty short stop. Remember, they haven't been running terribly long. Yesterday, Macaulay Jones had some trouble in that regard. They overfilled the car, and I think Van Gisbergen a little as well. That's the damaged car of Scott Pye. Now, is this a move by Percat? I beg your pardon, by Mostert. He was looking pretty carefully then at the prospect, wasn't he, of trying to sneak down the inside of Fabian Coulthard. Difficult thing to do to get down the inside cleanly at turn 9 unless you've absolutely got an edge over the preceding car. And what the drivers are trying to avoid doing down there is ending up locking a brake late in the stop, and then that makes awkward contact. You bend the steering, you've got a punishing afternoon to come. There's still 68 laps remaining. Meantime, McLaughlin continues to just eke out a slightly bigger lead. This time, though, new fastest lap for Shane Van Gisbergen. 1.4 seconds is the gap. Van Gisbergen, personal best for him in sectors 1, 2 and 3 equals a 1 minute 21.03. So 3/100ths of a second faster than the time done by McLaughlin. So they're trading punches at the moment. Whincup just did a fast first sector on that last lap as well, even though he's tucked in behind Lee Holdsworth. Best that we've seen. So Scott McLaughlin's the quickest guy, sectors 1 and 3. Whincup is the fastest driver in sector 2 at the moment. Mostert still lying the rear wing on Fabian's car.
So McLaughlin and Van Gisbergen, it's reasonably stable, isn't it? Maybe he's just parked back far enough where you don't get too much aero wash. Mostert just having a little look and a little bump, gives a little rub. Rick Kelly's not far from Coulthard because they had a really good battle in the closing stages yesterday afternoon. In fact, Rick and Fabian were the highlight of the last 10 or 15 minutes of the race. It was a really good battle to stay in the 10 with Rick, and a good aggressive drive by Fabian late in the race. So good that Rick's up there with them.
Well, considering the way that program came together and the amount of work that was done, I mentioned earlier in the day in their machine shop, southeastern Melbourne, they were working 24-hour shifts just making componentry for that car at one stage in the gap. They literally worked every day and many of the nights. That's one of the other cars. It's not a brand new chassis, that one, but Rick's is. He was 9th yesterday in the Castrol Racing entry, Rick Kelly. Did Andre just stall it? I think he did. And this little bunch here is tightening up, but they have flipped position. So Mostert did eventually get through, and Rick Kelly may be able to do this now as well. He's very close to the back of Fabian Coulthard. So this is a good run by Rick. And is Fabian just battling a little bit? Certainly good pace being shown here by Mostert, who looked good late in the stop in these slower corners. So Fabian's having to cover down the inside, which means that Rick tries to round him up down here. Kind of ends up going nowhere, that move, because of the shape of the corner. It doubles back on itself. Turn 11's been a little bit problematic for everybody this weekend. We've seen a lot of cars sliding up against that exit wall. So Mostert at the moment up to 5th. Next in the queue for him might be Will Davison, who he had a vigorous battle with yesterday, and he's 3.2 seconds behind Will. And he's 8.5 seconds from the lead. Oh, Pither is into the gravel here. Now this, if he can't get it out, might also trigger the Vodafone safety car. And they're preparing to bring Percat in. In fact, he is in the lane now for his stop. Can Chris get the Coke car out? So Chris Pither, Team Sydney, Coca-Cola Racing entry, and that's wide at turn 11. He's gone straight ahead. Can't get it into reverse. And out comes the Vodafone safety car for the second time today. We saw no evidence of it yesterday, and now it's out twice. Bunnings Trade power pass here. And already there's been a bit of passing up and down this field. Various drivers have been able to make good gains, and this is a nice one made by Chaz Mostert. At the time we didn't see it, but watched down the inside. Nice job, and actually drew Rick Kelly a little bit closer to that battle as well. Fabian saw him coming, gave him plenty of space. He must have a little weakness in the balance and behaviour of that car at the moment, because he didn't put up too much resistance. He let him get by without too much trouble.
Now this is going to cause some double stacking. Penske's probably the first of the cars that's going to be affected by this, aren't they? So there's Scott. They're both in the lane now, both cars 17 and 12.
So now what fuel load do you play? And one of the advantages of being at the end of pit lane for the Shell V-Power Racing team is they can keep an eye on 97 here. And queuing Coulthard, who has to give right of way and not block the lane. And we've got the same problem happening at Walkinshaw Andretti United, so that's going to hurt Bryce forward. He's jumped him. Yeah, so Van Gisbergen's jumped him. I heard the crowd, Murph.
Guys, I cannot believe that they were not watching the 97 for Scott McLaughlin. They waited. The 97 dropped. He was in the lane before they dropped Scott McLaughlin. That is a real fail on behalf of DJ Team Penske to lose track position for Scotty.
That is unbelievable, Murph. In all the chaos.
I cannot believe that they let that happen. No one was watching the Red Bull.
I just finished describing that's one of the advantages of being in that position.
Totally. You play the man, don't you? You just play the next car. You fill it up until this one drops. No, they're miles away. They weren't finished.
So they put 50 on our numbers. They put 56 litres in McLaughlin's car and 51, 5 litres difference, about a second and a half, 2 seconds difference in fuel to Van Gisbergen. Now he might get that back at the second stop, Scott McLaughlin, but you've got to hope that everything else continues to play according to the theory.
That is as big in terms of strategic error as you will see. Track position around here, we know it's king. We saw the bravery of McLaughlin at turn 1 to be able to fire it into the first corner and get across the front of Van Gisbergen. He knew how important it was. He would be fuming. McLaughlin will be fuming, Murph.
Rightfully so, and I can see Ryan Story talking to Ben Croak at the moment. Can we have a quick one? That did not go to plan. No, it did not.
We look. There's a second fuel in hand, but
yeah, sure.
Track position is a pretty vital thing around this place.
Yes, thanks.
Yeah, so they'll have highly accurate numbers. We're showing it's about a second and a half, might even be as much as 2 seconds. About 5 litres of fuel, and 3 3/4 litres is the refuel rate. But now what they've done is they've given track position to car number 97. It's a birthday for Shane Van Gisbergen, even though his comes along in May. And that just gives him an empty track to operate in, and it means that they have to make sure that everything plays out exactly according to the flight plan for Scott McLaughlin in order to be able to throw a punch.
So the only thing that McLaughlin can do now, because really the rest of the race is about Scott. The team can't fix this now. So the rest of the race is about Scott. The only thing that he can do is, A, force Van Gisbergen to make a mistake at the restart. So pressure him incredibly in the first 2 or 3 laps after the restart. And the second thing is, make sure you stay within 1 second when the stops happen. So that's a tough ask. You've got to park yourself behind him for the whole phase.
And the key word with an underline, behind.
Yeah.
So we've already heard a lot of drivers yesterday talking about heat effect. Now, is that tyres? Is it brakes? Is it water temp? Is it, I mean, you know,
it's
all of those things.
Yep.
And it just actually blindsides you to the approach of a lot of the key corners on a street circuit. So trying to maintain your margin, which has got to be within a second and a half. I'll be liberal. It's a second to a second and a half. That's a tough call. And you're going to have to spend it under the rear wing of another car now. Otherwise, you've just lost the strategic advantage.
The physicality of that is immense. The risk attached to that, it's very easy to make a mistake around here, given the visibility parked in behind another car. The aero wash that we've been discussing all weekend. We've heard Courtney, we've heard Van Gisbergen, we've heard everybody say it's hard to follow the car in front. So put yourself in Scott McLaughlin's seat right now. The whole dynamic of this race has changed. He's got to press on and make him make a mistake.
Lights are out on the Vodafone safety car as they try to resurrect Chris Pither's car number 22, the Coca-Cola Racing entry. He's in the pit lane after triggering that second Vodafone safety car. Now, a couple of cars have applied a shorter fill because they understand the importance of being able to get track positions. So only 30 litres of fuel went into Lee Holdsworth's car, therefore he's third in the queue at the moment. And only 36 litres went into Jamie Whincup's car, and that's had the effect of bringing him up the order here. And there he is in the background. Van Gisbergen, McLaughlin, Holdsworth, Whincup and Waters. So things have just shuffled around a little bit by just playing with the fuel loads after they all responded to the safety car. We're racing once more. Track goes green. Van Gisbergen sets off.
Shane did exactly what Scott did to him in the previous restart. He parked him up, accelerated away, and that's a good bit. Oh, well then, see, half the problem is now he doesn't need Lee Holdsworth to have a dive at him because he wants to put all his focus on trying to get to the back of car 97. Lee's putting pressure on. He's just poking the nose of the truck assist Mustang down the inside, and he's semi-got a hold station. He's semi-got a cover Lee Holdsworth.
And there's no rest for Lee because he's got Jamie Whincup on him, who in turn has got Cam Waters on the back of him. So that's tyre pressure warning to Scott McLaughlin. Pressure still coming up. Key spot to know it going into turn 8. Holdsworth had a look, so did Waters, down the inside. Oh, did he get away with it, Hazelwood? He did. He skated it in. He got away with it just. So Hazelwood, this is him on the left. Heimgartner, I should say. So Heimgartner's getting attacked here by Winterbottom. And this is too wide into the final corner. All right, so they managed to sort it all out. That was tight.
Mostert, they put a heap more fuel in Mostert's car, Neil. He's basically put 75 litres in, but the others have put roughly 50. So that's why, just because prior to the safety car, he was way further up the field. So they put him way back. So that's a strategic thing for a final short stop. It hurts him now.
And depending on who you're racing and how long you have to race them, that may not turn the other way for them, because just have a look where he is. So he's got a lot of cars around him here, and having a look down the inside comes Waters at turn 7. And you've got Will Davison in there as well. The fact that Cam got a slow exit means he's being hunted by Will Davison, gets chased to the right side of the road. Now they crisscross on the run to 8. That's let Lee get away, and Jamie to some extent.
Well, the Tickford Cup was basically being maintained in 2020. We've removed Mostert from the pack. We've inserted Jack LeBrock. He's right there in the back of that there now. That was Nick Percat putting a move on him. But there was a bit of aggro with Will Davison and Cam Waters between turn 7 and turn 8. A little concertina effect there as Mostert, as LeBrock was into the back. I'm still in Mustang land, super cheap. Yeah. Into the back of Nick Percat, and in behind was Hazelwood just making contact with LeBrock.
It's hard to undo all those years of imprint. All right, so Hazelwood having another crack here. Big pressure on LeBrock. He's got Heimgartner tucked in behind him. But all this is costly for Mostert. This is going to cost lap time, and Hazelwood just glued to the back of the Mustang out of turn 5. Mostert trying to figure out how to deal with all of this. You can imagine the heat and the distraction of having 3 cars in front of you, and Winterbottom's tucked right in behind Chaz, teammates. Now, Van Gisbergen, meantime's got a 1.6 second margin. We've got a bit of carbon fibre on the racetrack down here. And where is that? It's out of the exit, turn 9, down at the hairpin. And in fact, they've got a yellow flag waving down there for that one. So this is an interesting mix-up now, just with the way the strategy's unfolded here. And we've got Holdsworth and Whincup short field. That's brought them right into this game. And meantime, Van Gisbergen's just beginning to ease away slightly from McLaughlin. So that is Mostert getting up on Heimgartner now. That's one spot. That gets him up into 10th.
So there's been some, for Rick Kelly fans, there's been some drama for Rick Kelly, Neil, because he's lost about 30 seconds in all that. We were saying before.
And they put 75 litres of fuel in for him too.
But it's a lot more than that. But his penalty, somehow, there's been some drama in pit lane because he's behind Heimgartner. He was way ahead of him.
So you're thinking that the fuel didn't go in, it's just a delay in the lane for some reason?
Something in the lane, yeah. So we're trying to unravel what's happened to Rick, but that's put him way back. Doing a great job before that. Remember, he was up with Fabian Coulthard. Fabian Coulthard also had a double stack, so he's been hurt by that too. So he should have been 7th or 8th. But he's now down in 16th. A move for Dave Reynolds down the inside of Jacobson. Nicely executed in a bump as Jacobson went to turn in. Rick Kelly's Mustang was parked on the inside, so that little bit of contact there, nose to tail. So Rick will be trying to put a move on Jacobson now. Murph?
Just on that, Rick Kelly put a full stop on it. As he was leaving the lane, Jack Smith came across the front of him in a double stack situation and blocked him. And he only got 48 litres in the Castrol Mustang. So a bit of an issue just coming out of the last corner too there for Jacobson. So yeah, Rick Kelly, he is a long way back from where he should be.
Yeah, so that now explains it. So he didn't get all the fuel that we thought he did because the way the computer sees it, it just thinks that the fuel's been delivered. But that was an awkward moment for Gary Jacobson. He ended up on the outside wall there at turn 14. That's probably going to bring him back into the lane. Here's what happened. So it's Rick Kelly down the inside. He won't be seeing the humour in life at the moment after having to wait in the pit lane with the double stack there with Jack Smith. And they interlock wheels on the exit. And that pitches Jacobson into the tyres on the outside at 14. Here's the view from Rick's car. They checked up, the wheels interlocked, and it just punches Jacobson off the outside of the road here. So there's actually plenty of space between them at the moment, but Gary's in an awkward spot out there.
Probably should have fanned the throttle a little bit at that point. If he just came out of the throttle just a little bit and let Rick's car slide across the front of him, he would have driven off into the distance without any damage. So a little bit of inexperience, just car positioning, hard to get your mind around losing a spot any time, but you just got to sometimes use your head to make sure you don't get the damage at the end.
Now, Van Gisbergen's making use of this empty racetrack at the moment. He's just done a 1 minute 20.8 to be the fastest out there. So he's faster in the first sector than anybody else. So he's just got open road to play with at the moment. Quali Jones is 17th at present. And he's got Bryce Fullwood tucked behind him, the Dunlop Super 2 champion. And Zane Goddard, who ran wide with Jack Smith behind him down there at turn 4. And they've just told Scott McLaughlin that pressures are now on target with that car.
It's taken a while, isn't it?
So he's 1.9 seconds behind, 2.5 seconds in front of Lee Holdsworth. So things have just settled in the margins, first, second and third at the moment. It's 3/4 of a second from Holdsworth back to Whincup. So this is the reason why Rick Kelly, look on the right-hand side of screen, Jack Smith parked at 45 degrees, and he's effectively blocked the exit path for the Castrol racing car. Can't go anywhere because he's sitting waiting for fuel. Oh, imagine what Rick's thinking about all that. I mean, it's just one of those things. It's just the way that... Listen to him in the background. He's less than impressed. So he's in behind Macaulay Jones. They serviced the Castrol Racing Mustang. He was running inside the top 10, and then he's trapped with nowhere to go on departure. It's his 19th Adelaide500 this weekend. And they won't want to hear it at the moment, but they are at least competitive, and they did get the cars out there. But from a strategy standpoint, just the way the ball bounces, they've just had a tough one.
But I'm interested just where Jack was parked compared to where Fabian parked for the Shane Van Gisbergen park up. So when there was a double stack, Fabian parked so Shane could get out. That wasn't the case with Jack Smith parked there. He couldn't get out.
Anton De Pasquale, I can tell by your body language, and there's a lot of frustration here with you. Just talk us through that incident and your thoughts.
Yeah, obviously not ideal. Didn't get through lap 1, so not good, especially in Adelaide when you sort of want to start your year off strong. So yeah, have to regroup and obviously fix the car and get back at the Grand Prix and get some good results.
I know you just had a very quick look at your phone. I had a look at the replay. Any further thoughts on that?
Oh, not really. I mean, it sort of looks like what I felt. Obviously, it's not ideal, and obviously because it's the teammates and all this stuff, obviously makes it a bit bigger. But we're all racing, we're all sort of trying to go around the track as fast as possible, and these things happen. But obviously not ideal, and we're on the receiving end of it.
Thanks, Anton.
Cheers.
It's a mature response by Anton De Pasquale. Nothing he can do. David clearly is not trying to spear him, but he got in there too hot, too narrow, tagged him. And second year in a row, unfortunately, things have been tough here in Adelaide for him. Van Gisbergen just said something about rear ride height. So whether or not he wants it up or down in this next stop. 2-second margin at the moment. Doesn't appear to be anything too
ride height change, no ride height change. We'll try and fix the bar if you still want it then.
So actually, I heard Grant say to him sorry early on, so he'd be apologising because I reckon one of the anti-roll bars is not doing its thing. So maybe what he's asking for is a change of ride height, but Grant's saying no to that. So I wonder what I wondered earlier what the sorry was. Now Mostert down the inside of Hazelwood very easily. Todd gave him a pile of space, so that gets him up to 9th. Chaz Mostert, he's now in behind Jack LeBrock. So this is Shane Van Gisbergen, our race leader, 2 seconds up. And that gap back to Lee Holdsworth's actually opened up a fair bit now. Whincup is very close to the back of Lee Holdsworth. Now, LeBrock actually just lost a couple of places to Mostert and Hazelwood as well. So Mostert and Hazelwood have just come up to 8th and 9th, and LeBrock must have made a little mistake or something's gone on there because he's just dropped back into 10th. And car number 4 is under investigation for pit lane procedure as well. And that'll, I imagine, be as a result of a pretty animated communication on the land from Kelly Racing about the parking of car number 4.
So let's have a little quick review of a couple of the big game items that have happened so far in the race. First of all, the Anton De Pasquale, Davey Reynolds contact down here at turn 9. Now, what I want to show you here is, yes, he got a penalty, but if we just pull it up right about there. Okay, here's Dave Reynolds, here's Anton De Pasquale. I can assure you Dave Reynolds will be focused on Mark Winterbottom's car, not what Anton De Pasquale's doing. And as we go ahead a little more, I can assure you a similar thing. Anton De Pasquale won't be thinking about Davey Reynolds coming up, so he didn't give him any room. Now, the reason he copped a whack is once you take someone out and spoil their day, that's done, because I don't think what Davey did was particularly bad. Now, let's get rid of that one, and I want to go down here, and the boys were just talking about what happened here in the pit lane. Our championship order, our garage is determined by which team finishes first in the championship. Now, the advantage of that is you can send your car out first after qualifying, after safety cars, but the best thing is when you're here fueling up your car, you can watch the guys behind you, so when they depart, you can jump out ahead of them. Now, Shane Van Gisbergen knew he had to get track position. He knew he had to get ahead of Scott McLaughlin, but I can tell you, he definitely didn't think he was going to do it that easily. That was a bad tactical error. Now, Shane is 3-4 seconds ahead. They're going to be able to fuel up the fuel difference between them, so short-filled him. That's good strategy.
And he's got a cushion in hand at the moment of 2.5 seconds. We're focused here on Andre Heimgartner. He's sitting in 11th position. So Van Gisbergen over his Kiwi counterpart, McLaughlin, position number 2.
15-second time penalty for car 4. 15-second time penalty for car 4 for a driving infringement.
So car 4 has got a penalty, 15 seconds, and that's for the way in which car 4, Jack Smith, was parked in pit lane.
And when Lucko was explaining the advantage of the final garage and what, from a strategic point of view, what happened in terms of the exit for Shane versus Scott, you could actually see Fabian Coulthard parked up parallel with Van Gisbergen to give him space. So respectfully between the teams, there's a code of if this happens, this is where you park. This allows the other car out, which that's why Jack Smith's got penalised as a consequence.
And the reason they do that is that it's effectively ruined Rick Kelly's day. The problem for Rick, and this is the shame about sport sometimes, is there's no giving back his position. You can penalise the perpetrator. So when he takes the next stop, Jack Smith's got to sit there for an extra 15 seconds. But for Kelly, he was running, I think we were calling 7th at one stage. He's now down in 16th.
So Davey Reynolds, after the penalties and the drama, and covered off the circumstance around him making contact with his teammate, he's down in 13th. This is what happened. You asked what happened with LeBrock.
Okay, so hip and shoulder over the top of the turn 9 curb, and that's why 14 and 7 got by.
He'd already run wide himself.
Yeah.
So he'd already made his own mistake. He just got caught with a couple of hard heads on the re-entry.
There's a few hard heads out there. So I'm watching sector splits at the moment. Van Gisbergen and McLaughlin have done identical times in sectors 1 and 2. So I'm looking for where the advantage is that Van Gisbergen's got, and I think it's in the 3rd sector. He put 0.3 of a second in the 3rd sector, Van Gisbergen, on McLaughlin. So he's very strong in that area. But the first 2 sectors of the racetrack, there's nothing in it between those two at the moment. But at present, the margin in fuel's cancelled because Van Gisbergen's actually got that in hand.
That's right. So we think there's 1.5 seconds.
5 litres.
Yeah. So 1.5 seconds plays 3 seconds on track. So at the moment, Van Gisbergen should be able to effect the stop and still maintain his margin. And that's the job now for McLaughlin. At the time when the stops are going to unfold, he's got to forge his way back up right in behind Van Gisbergen. So he might actually be playing a little game at the moment of, I just need to be out of the aero wake. I can give the tyres a little rest. Got 52 laps remaining, so a long way to go in this race. We're only about 1/3 of the way through. So he just needs to compose himself, not get too caught up in it. Forget about the strategic error, and then just use the car up nicely. And at the time that he has to press the go button, he has to then apply as much pressure to Van Gisbergen as he can. Hopefully get back within 1 to 1.5 seconds. Still an intriguing battle between these two young Kiwis.
51 laps remaining in part 2 of the Superloop Adelaide500. Order at the moment, Van Gisbergen over McLaughlin. Van Gisbergen was able to jump McLaughlin in the first pit stop. There's a little variance in the fuel between the two of them. It was in favour of McLaughlin, which meant that he'd be stationary for a shorter period of time in the second stop. But the problem is it's only 5 litres difference, and already Van Gisbergen's got his margin out to 3.3 seconds now. So that is the gap between first and second. That's what it looks like. The clock says 3.2. That's what it looks like on the racetrack. And other things that are key this afternoon, they put quite a bit of fuel in Chaz Mostert's car. He's down in 8th position. Car number 15, by the way, Rick Kelly, who got held up in the pit lanes under investigation for passing under the yellow flag. So that might compound a difficult afternoon for him. And we've got a couple of other cars that have been in the wars as well. So David Reynolds took a pit lane drive-through penalty for tagging his teammate on lap 1, Anton De Pasquale. We've got damage on Chris Pither's car as well.
Guys, I think actually just looking at the fuel rigs between Red Bull Holden Racing Team for Shane Van Gisbergen and number 17 Scott McLaughlin, the story is actually a little bit better for us and probably a little bit better for Scott, because it's a 7-litre difference on their rigs. So I'd make that a 2.5 second advantage there for Scott McLaughlin. If it's going to play out that way or not, we'll have to keep an eye on it. So maybe the gap is a little bit better off for Scott at this stage in it all, so we'll keep an eye on it. The other thing, just talked to Mark Dutton there about Shane Van Gisbergen's situation that we heard some talk about in anti-roll bar before. He's unable to adjust the front anti-roll bar in that current moment. We know how much Shane likes to play with his anti-roll bars and his brake bars, so that's probably a little bit of an annoyance for him, and we'll see if they do anything about that at the stop. They said they were not going to make a rear ride height change to make an adjustment, but that may change, so let's have a look at that. And the last thing, boys, that thing about the pit stop before between these two that allowed Shane to get in front ahead of Scott McLaughlin, they were very transfixed at DJR Team Penske, you guys, you know, on making sure they did a number.
Paul,
and they
a
weren't
15
looking
second time
down the road.
penalty.
It's just sometimes you've actually got to pay attention to what's
for
going on
a
around
yellow
you.
flag infringement.
Yeah.
Penalty time penalties be taken at the next pit stop.
I agree, Murph, and that's part of the whole gamesmanship, isn't it? You know, it's okay to have your own plan, but you got to know who you're racing. Now, this is the issue. We think yellow flag there. Yeah. So he makes a pass on James Courtney with the yellow flag at turn 9.
Yeah, so he's now got to serve a 15-second penalty. So ironically, Jack Smith, who blocked him in the pit lane, serving a 15-second penalty. So he's already down the order, Rick Kelly, having been running nice and strongly in the top 10, and now he's got a 15-second penalty of his own. He's probably a bit frustrated in the cabin of that car, didn't see the yellow flag, and that's a pretty significant error, and we could see it visibly on the camera, and no doubt James Courtney would have radioed at the time to say I've just been passed by someone. So that's frustrating. It's interesting listening to Murph sum up what's going on there. So 7 seconds, as you say, is 2+ seconds, but at the moment it's a 3.6, actually just went out to 3.7 second margin between Van Gisbergen and McLaughlin. So even with a little bit of fuel in hand at the moment, McLaughlin's still in net terms behind Shane Van Gisbergen, and he's on the track. And so, as I said before, I caught the back end of that message about whatever it was that Grant was apologising for. Turns out it was the front anti-roll bar, so Shane was wondering whether or not they make a change. I wonder whether that might have a bit of influence on the tyre behaviour late in the day. We had very flat, what we call degradation or deg with the tyre behaviour yesterday. There was a bit of speculation earlier in the weekend that there might be more going into this weekend. That's not really been the case. The tyres, Dunlop tyres, have been performing very consistently, but sometimes if you've got a bit of an imbalance going, and that'll be why Shane doesn't like the fact that you can't adjust that front anti-roll bar, you might excite and hurt the rear tyre. You have to adjust your driving to get around it. It might cost him a little bit of time. It's not at the moment, but perhaps late in the tyre stint it could.
A mistake on the last lap by Van Gisbergen there, because that's almost went back to 2.8. It's now 3 seconds. So on the last lap, McLaughlin made a lot of ground. McLaughlin was fastest, and Van Gisbergen was 7th fastest. So if it stays at that borderline number that Murph's given us a little bit of hope, roughly 2.5 seconds is the number, and we've got 2.85 now down as our gap. If he stays in that realm, then it makes it interesting.
Yeah, so it's officially, make sure that my numbers are accurate, it's actually becoming important. There's officially a difference of, if it's 7 litres, and Murph's seen the sight gauges, so that's pretty accurate. It's 1.8 seconds difference in the pit lane. At the moment, there's 2.9 seconds difference between Van Gisbergen and McLaughlin. So your point, one little mistake, one little lock-up, bit of traffic, miss an apex, maybe the tyres are degrading, if he can't get the adjustability he wants in the car. He doesn't have, whilst it looks comfortable at the moment, he doesn't have enough of a margin in real terms over Scott McLaughlin to relax.
But also the number that you just gave us, that's an exact science. So that's the exact volume difference. The reality is you've still got to make the stop.
Yeah.
And we saw Whincup, Murph reported before, remember he had a sort of a 2-second glitch on the attachment of the hose and the way it vents. So again, there's still pressure on the teams to perform that stop.
Yeah, that's just a theory. The practical application of that is you must do it. You've got to pull up on the marks. You've got to deliver the fuel as required. No leakages, no trips, no traffic, no double stacking. So in real terms, McLaughlin is about, roughly 1 to 1.5 seconds behind.
Yep.
So we'll just keep a very close eye on how that trends. And they've been very good over the recent past at looking after their tyres, the Shell V-Power Racing team, and so have the Red Bull Holden Racing team. These two organisations have been the ones that have figured out how to look after the tyres best across the journey. Now they are pulling away significantly from Lee Holdsworth at the moment. That's out to 8.8 seconds between McLaughlin and Holdsworth. And Jamie Whincup still parked under his rear wing, so he's only 0.8 of a second behind. Next group of cars that we're looking at here, just beyond 10th place, that's David Reynolds in 13th, who's taken a pit lane drive-through penalty today after he tagged his teammate at turn 9 on the opening lap.
But if you ever wanted to see a demonstration of track position being important, have a contrasting look at Whincup's race from yesterday and his race today. Comes in, makes the early stop like McLaughlin did. Holdsworth comes in, strategises around putting less fuel in, pops out in front of him, over and out.
Van Gisbergen with a clear track. Yesterday, McLaughlin with a clear track. Conversely, Mostert, though there's more fuel in that car and some of what looks like it's pain at the moment will come back to him, but, you know, he's been just jammed in traffic in this entire stint. At the moment, he's in behind Nick Percat. He's only 8/10 behind. So he's swallowing lots of hot air, and there'll be frustration just tucked up there.
Hey, Neil, I'm out on the pit wall, and here's something interesting. I was wondering why I was having such a pleasant experience, apart from being back with you guys and Rihanna and Greg Murphy. Listen, it's much quieter on the pit lane. You know how the cars bang really as they change gears, right? And now I'm going to hang my microphone out when this lead pack come through, right? You just listen to this lot. Oh, microphone,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So the first one did, the second one didn't, and the next group, here they come now, just listen. Bear with me. Here we go. Right, so did you hear that? No banging. So what they've done is allowed them to change the way they put the gear cut. So for those at home that don't know, the drivers hold the car flat, they pull the gear stick, it cuts the engine momentarily so it can pull into the next gear and away it goes. Now that puts some fuel in the exhaust that goes bang when it hits the next gear. But now they've allowed them to do it via retardation. Now I won't bog you with the detail of that, other than it's much more pleasant down here on the pit lane, and it doesn't put a nasty resonance through the driveline. And you can see it in the data that's not good for the driveline. So there's a good pickup, Larko. Well done down here on the pit lane, mate.
That was awesome.
I'll see what else I can find.
Yeah.
Use the mic next time.
Yeah, can we clip that off where he's talking to us and he's got the mic a metre from his mouth? Oh, my goodness. Yeah. But anyway, it was the
Could
point.
be one of the best crosses he's done.
Yeah, that's right. Can you do them all like that? Oh, dear. That was good. It was an interesting point. So was the delivery. We're riding with Cam Waters at the moment. He's in 5th position behind Whincup. That's Jamie in front, and he's been staring at the rear wing of Lee's car for quite some time now. And behind Waters is Davison. Then it's Percat and Mostert. That next group of cars, there's actually not an awful lot between any of them. Ooh, moment for James Courtney. Gets it crossed up on the run to the final corner. Gives a free kick to Rick Kelly. And this is the view from Rick's car. James just stuck the left rear in the dirt down there and slides it in. And an easy pass for Rick Kelly in the process. He's got a 15-second hold penalty at the next stop, and so is Jack Smith. Now we're coming up to the critical lap. If you remember back at the Hino Hub pre-race, nominated that as lap number 38. Some may choose, depending on who they're racing, to get out of the queue and take advantage of that. But then it's a long stint on the tyres. But what we did learn yesterday is that the tyres are not particularly hurting over the lengthy journey, so you don't get a monstrous effect from undercut at the moment. So if I look back at those that where the stop sat yesterday, so for example, Jamie Whincup won the race. His second stop he took at 47. Scott McLaughlin pitted early for his first stop on 7, but his second stop was 42. And Shane Van Gisbergen, his first stop was 24. His second stop was 49. It was quite late in the game, so it was well past critical lap.
Bad sportsmanship flag in car 18 of use of the turn to curb.
Mark Winterbottom's
flag. Frosty. I heard a few people say that the critical lap, that lap number might have come back a little. Did you hear the same? They just thought the consumption was a little better. Did you hear that?
Yeah, with the first one we saw pit yesterday, I think, I can't remember, at that point was Waters, and that was exactly 38. But yeah, there were a couple of people, you know from your own treatment of the throttle and the lap speed of the day that it'll vary by the moment anyway.
Yeah.
So the most accurate read of that is the data that they're getting via telemetry at the moment back into the bunker. But yeah, that was discussed in our engineering chat this morning. 4 seconds is the gap between Van Gisbergen and McLaughlin. And Jamie Whincup, who was a protagonist in the lead battle yesterday, he's still sitting there in 4th. Now the problem for Whincup is that he's got to put quite a bit of fuel on in the next stop.
Yeah, so Moster's going to play himself in. If he can just be reasonably patient when he attacks Percat and nothing weird happens in this next phase, he's going to play himself in, Neil. He's got the least amount of fuel out of those top runners.
Yeah, and the way it's trending at the moment on our projections, he's going to come out in a very vigorous race with Cam Waters.
Really? They get on well.
Should play nicely together. And you've got Will Davison in amongst it as well. So that's worth the price of admission, and that'll be coming up shortly on a television near you.
So Holdsworth and Whincup, because they've got to put a lot of fuel on, they're going to go behind this pack. So the pack that you can see there behind with Waters and Davison and Mostert, they're going to come forward. So it's a little bit artificial until this next stop plays out. And Whincup has not been able to do anything about it. I thought that he might have been really aggressive and had a big, bold move on Holdsworth somewhere, but he hasn't been able to do it. So Lee's driven well, hasn't made a mistake.
And there was damage on that car of Gary Jacobson's from early on, as if you recall. He got tripped over and hit the outside wall with Rick Kelly at turn 14. So the yellow cover entry's just gone into the garage of Matt Stone Racing. I saw Rihanna in the pit lane there, so we'll get a bit of an update on what is going on. But it was pretty severely bruised, some of the external shots that we had of that from earlier on. So they've got incompressible stands and jacks underneath that car just to make it safe to work on. And it's back in there. They've also got a laptop in there, so they've got some data on that as well. So 4.2 seconds is the margin. Interesting again, Mark, it's the third sector where Van Gisbergen's got the strength over McLaughlin at the moment. First two sectors of the racetrack are pretty much the same. What's going on here at Walkinshaw Andretti United? They've got some issue going on with a refueling rig, Mark.
Yeah, Neil, I was just up the other end of pit lane. I walked past, and literally as I walked past, the hose popped off and fuel went all over the ground here. So the guys jumped on it really quickly. Well done. But it's interesting now, isn't it? Because I don't know how much fuel they've lost, but our organisers, our supercars, we've got a certain 140 litres we've got to put in the car. He's already lost some out of the tanky, so I don't know how they're going to reconcile that. It'll be interesting, won't it?
That's a good point. I was thinking exactly the same, Larko. How do you, from an official's perspective, how do you determine where the sight gauge goes now? How much do you have to put in? I mean, there's a dead reckoning. Everybody, from the time that it stopped, you can sort of do some backfill numbers, but it's not real.
Yeah, mate, I'd guess 6 or 8 litres at least, maybe 10 went on the ground. It's a decent old spill.
Yeah.
That's a question for the technical team.
Oh, is it in Mostert's boom or forwards? Because that's an interesting one, because Mostert's going to play himself in here.
Some trouble here for Zane Goddard. That'll be from the turn 1 tyres. If you touch them down there, we've seen a lot of people with damage this weekend. So we'll follow up that story to understand what's going on. And there's the replay in the background of the turn 1 tyres. And that's made pretty significant contact and ripped the front bumper assembly off that car. So it's turning out to be a tough afternoon for Matt Stone Racing. This is the unit car, part of the Superlight program. Rihanna?
Yeah, pretty tough afternoon right now for MSR. Gary Jacobson, he's got a gearbox temperature rising at the moment. Not exactly sure why, but they think it might have had to do something with him going onto the grass, might have pulled a line off, but yeah, not exactly sure at the moment.
Thanks for keeping an eye on that. Meantime, his teammate looking worse for wear out there at present. He's down in 19th position behind Macaulay Jones and Bryce Fullwood. So 4.7 seconds is the gap between Van Gisbergen and McLaughlin. It just keeps on eking out a little bit. Ooh, that is a big whack. So he's really clouded that tyre bundle down there, and that's savaged the front of that car. So that's something that Supercars technical group will have to puzzle over, how to figure out that question around the fuel for cars number 2 and 25, but particularly for Mostert because of where he's at in this race.
It's actually Bryce Fullwood's fuel rig. Okay. So it won't have, in terms of the result at the moment.
Yeah, well, Bryce is down in 18th position.
It won't be too controversial, but
it's still an awkward one. Yeah, well, you could reverse engineer it to a degree. And that's what they'll be pleading. There'll be common sense in that discussion, no doubt. I should also shout out this weekend's the last weekend for Frank Adamson from the Supercars technical team. He's going off to other pastures in motorsport. Frank's been part and parcel of the paddock here for a long period of time, so wishing him well, and he'll hate the fact that I mentioned it.
So Campbell Little, one of the technical gurus that worked for Supercars on the pit lane, just told me he'd fortunately already measured the fuel that was in there, so they knew what was in there after his first stop, so they'll get him to refill. It'll end up only a couple of mil of fuel. so that'll recover nicely, and it was forwards, yes.
Thanks, Larko, for the update. Now, we've reached, in fact, we've passed the critical lap, so this might be, to the point that you made earlier on, Mark, it can potentially come back if the fuel efficiency is good. But people are not reacting at the moment, so 39 laps remaining. We've been racing for just on 1 hour, 59 minutes and 35 seconds. It'll be hard work out there at the moment, particularly for those that have got evil handling cars or cars that are hurt or bruised in some way, because it's a grind, isn't it? Like Zane Goddard out there with a big chunk out of the front bumper. He was already physically hurting yesterday, and he's still staring down the gun barrel of almost another hour of motor racing out there. What fun.
You're being facetious. It's certainly not fun at that stage, is it? It's forwards trying to put a move on Macca. Macaulay Jones stops it, didn't block him. Stopped it on line, but he made a little mistake, Macaulay, on the way out of turn 11. The Century battery shot from above the Parklands racetrack looks fantastic as they run down pit straight into turn 1. This is actually a really good view of the centre chicane and the way that you have to try to make the car ride over the left-hand component and then hustle the car across the curb on the right and through this 90-degree section. They're all 90-degree right, lefts, then a double right at 6 and then 7. They're all going to be their own little nuances, little road profile changes and some bumps on the way in, and there's some contour differences to the apexes.
James Courtney just said on the radio that the pedal box is 3 million degrees. So I think from that message that he's suggesting it's pretty hot in there at the moment. So that's to the point that I was making earlier. So Holdsworth now into the lane, so he's acquiring fuel as Bryce Fullwood tries to put a move on Macaulay Jones. They're side by side on the run to turn 10. And Macaulay yields on the way to 11 just to give him some space. And in fact, Fullwood goes straight ahead and Jones only just barely gets away with it. Now, is he able to get it out of there? Yeah, found reverse. He bounced off the tyres.
Yeah, that was messy.
Yeah, I'm
now,
all right, sorry.
A Whincup needs to put a couple of ripping laps together now to clear Holdsworth. So the guards rubbing against the left front there on Forward's car 2. So he lights the wheel up. That's going to be rubbing way too hard now.
And David Cauchi just in the background saying to Jamie Whincup, push as hard as you can for the next couple of laps. Literally as you were saying it. Motor racing minds thinking alike. Now, Forward, as you say, is going to have to react to this because if it chews into that tyre too much, he may pop it. It's got pretty substantial damage on that front left corner. Here's what happens. So initially, he makes an attack down the inside. Macaulay Jones actually gives him some space. They accelerate to turn 10. Bryce is on the outside. I thought he was going to make this, but then he got in so deep and he was wide of the ideal line, so he went straight ahead, and Macca went with him to some extent. And then he bounced it off the tyre barrier there, but it's pushed the front mudguard and bumper assembly back onto the tyre. A lot of smoke will be coming into the cabin right now. Both of them were fully locked up trying to get through turn 11. Turning heads down there. Now Mostert and Hazelwood have now come into the lane.
So this is...
Now, he won't be standing still for terribly long. So all of a sudden, Mostert's going to be a factor now, depending on who he comes out with. And he's had a pretty difficult stint with a lot of traffic around him. He's been behind Perko for quite some time.
Just wait on that. Okay, mate, where can I go?
Now, just looking to see who he's got coming. Jack Smith
really,
and Bryce Fullwood. So he's got his teammate to deal with. Actually, that smoke doesn't look quite as bad on Bryce's car.
He's gapped Holdsworth by a mile, basically the length of pit straight. Holdsworth way back in the rear of shot.
Who was third at one stage, but doing the exact opposite. They short-filled car 5, Holdsworth, and then they longer-filled car 25. Now we've got McLaughlin in. Now, he had a little bit of fuel in hand. Yeah, so looking for the undercut. So they had a little bit of fuel in hand, and they're hoping that some Dunlop tyre magic is going to work for them as well.
penalties. That rear wheel wasn't going on very nicely there.
We're waiting on
and only just got on there. Didn't really go on the spline very well. With those dogs on that spindle, it didn't really match up perfectly.
Go.
So he's got to go and do some unbelievable laps now. Now, it mightn't even be laps, because it might be straight away that Van Gisbergen has to respond to try to nullify any of the strategic gain that he will get as a consequence of the fresh tyre. So the undercut for McLaughlin, we'll see in a second what Van Gisbergen does.
Now, I wanted to see where Will Davison merges with Chaz Mostert.
That's good.
And it's going to be very close between those two on the run to turn 1. And Winterbottom, Reynolds forward in the background in the pit lane as well. So Mostert clears Davison. Big lock-up for someone. Someone had a big lock-up going into 4.
This is what they had to do. They had to do that.
Yeah, so
they had to respond. Smart had no other option but not to get hurt by the undercut.
So this is just a covering play by Red Bull. He had track position and margin.
Currently clear. Still clear, mate. Get ready. Bend 2. Still clear. Go. Clear.
So he's going to end up being behind James Courtney, Bryce forward, and was it Rick Kelly the other car? Yeah, Rick Kelly was the other car. So, and where's Scotty? There he is there. And that margin now corrects to 4.9 seconds. A bit of that will compress because McLaughlin's already got a warmer tyre. So it's going to settle to about 4 seconds between them.
So here's Mostert with Cam Waters. Does he get by? This has been a great strategy play. If Mostert can get by, he does. He does. So they've really worked themselves into that. This is going to put Mostert in contention for the back of the podium. He's been able to jump them. So we thought that long fill early and putting him in the traffic was going to really hurt. He drove it well, and he's been able to make his way through the field, and with a short stop has bounced his way to the back of the podium. Well done.
Yeah, and considering the traffic that he has been buried in, that's a pretty fair job. Now, if ever you needed to do your... And that's a message. Racing, that was the message to Mostert, I should say. Yeah. If ever you needed to do your fastest lap, that's when Chaz needed to do it, and that's exactly what he did. In fact, his mid-sector, as you were describing a few moments ago, was the best of the entire field.
Yep.
So that was enough to get him clear. Win couple of Brockett and Kelly in. Kelly taking that extra 15-second hold.
Currently clear, about 5. Currently clear, about 3. Get ready. Currently clear. Go, mate, go.
Easily passed. Mostert gone, Waters gone, Davison will go. And will he get out in front of Holsworth? Yes, he does. So that's been replaced. There was a slight fuel disparity in those two, but he's actually come out in front of Holsworth.
Did they get all their fuel in?
The answer to that, boys, is no. They are a long way short.
No way.
It's got to be, no, I haven't quite, they're sort of blocking the whole deal there. Oh, that is...
Cam Waters.
15, it's 20 mil. 20 mil. So
No
do the math on
way.
that, boys. I don't know what has happened there. He is so far short, it's not funny.
Wow, there's lots going on all of a sudden. So Cam Waters had a moment at the final corner and trickled back onto the racetrack. We've got that on replay. Meantime, big question mark over missing fuel getting into Van Gisbergen's car.
Sorry, mate, we're going to have to do another splash, so we need to push as hard on these tyres for as long as we can. Sorry.
Okay, Grant McPherson just conveying news that Shane Van Gisbergen is not going to want to hear. Now, this is potentially going to hand the race to Scott McLaughlin. So we've got Courtney actually leading by 2.4 seconds at the moment, but he's out of sequence. Van Gisbergen doesn't have all the fuel. You heard Greg Murphy in the pit lane. He's sighting the gauge down there, and we've had Grant McPherson, the engineer, confirming to Shane Van Gisbergen, push as hard as you can, but we're going to have to do a splash and go. Greg?
Yeah, I'm just going to try and grab Mark Dutton and see if he can get an understanding of what has gone on. He's overlooking at the sight gauge. You can probably see that on the camera there. I mean, how significantly short it is. Mark, can you tell me what happened?
Still working that out.
So, miscalculation on time?
Ultimately, we didn't put enough fuel in. We're still trying to ascertain exactly why.
Thank you.
That's weird. I wonder how that can... I mean, that's just some sort of an operational breakdown. So that's one that Mark Dutton and Roland Dane and the management group in there are going to have to analyse to understand. It's changing the face of the race. So what that means now is there's 2.1 seconds between Van Gisbergen and McLaughlin. So that ironically, McLaughlin has also taken time out of Van Gisbergen in the middle of all this, while all that's been going on, maybe through distractions of Van Gisbergen. But you can see they're physically closer now. And Mostert potentially gets elevated to second. Waters elevated to third. So Mostert, that's actually surprised me given how much traffic he's had to swallow in that last stint. It's actually surprised me how well they've been able to get away with that one. So hats off to them down there at Walkinshaw Andretti United and the strategy team. And Adam DeBoer doing a nice job engineering Chaz as always. So here's our actual race leader, James Courtney, but he's out of sequence and he lets Shane Van Gisbergen go by.
So what's really, if you had to just do a very quick summary of the intensity of this race, there was a strategic error very early by DJR Team Penske, and then a protocol or procedural error from the Red Bull Holden Racing Team. Two very big errors. That would have normally cost you the race for DJR Team Penske, and then on the other side, this is going to cost Van Gisbergen the race as a consequence.
Unusual for both those organisations because they're military-like in the precision and the way in which they execute, but now, that's so the refueler have actually motioned to couple back up again. So he knew, but it must have been that he got a light trigger or a radio command to withdraw. So there's something in their process that's had him withdraw the refuel, and then immediately he's recognised it. So, I mean, I've never studied. Not in the lane when it's all going on, but I've never studied what their internal protocol is and how they do it. They do it with lights, they're doing it with numbers, are they doing it with radio comms?
Yeah, and the structure of that pit now is different. So I'm not sure whether Mark Dutton, where he was standing behind the engineers before, I know he's still doing that, he's playing more of an active role in the pit stop, isn't he?
Car controller.
Yeah, so when he's the car controller and you're more active in that role, I don't know whether you can review it as accurately. I'm not sure. I mean, it's a structural thing in terms of how they run the business and how they run that pit stop. But you can see there that Mark Dutton was going, I'm not really sure how this happened, and we really can't ascertain how we've underfilled this car. Anyway, I'm clear that both parties, both of the lead teams, with those mistakes, no one purposely makes them, but it does tend to come from the intensity. It tends to come from how hard the racing is. It tends to come from the level of competition and how much you're trying to minimise those stops and maximise your performance. Looks like a tail light hanging out of one of the cars on the road there. It's down at turn 7. So Van Gisbergen lead. We know that he hasn't got enough fuel based on the regulations.
Back in Adelaide, gorgeous view of the city in the background, racetrack in the foreground. Yeah, so I mean, I'm actually looking at the crew list there for Red Bull at the moment, and they're actually nominating Mark Dutton as the team principal for car number 88, Jeremy Moore as the team principal for car number 97, but I don't have the assignment of duties in there. And I mean, it's really about it's sort of got nothing to do with who the people are, it's just what the protocol is, what the cue is to remove the fuel nozzle. Somewhere along the line there's been some confusion, but Mark Dutton's assessment before was pretty accurate. It doesn't really actually matter. The reality is they didn't deliver enough fuel, and that's something I'll have to review in debrief.
Neil, you're dead right. There's a variety of systems up and down this pit lane. Many of them count down the fuel on the radio. Some a light comes on, which is to signify to pull it out. You can see these are the 888 or the Red Bull ones here. They've got a little, I don't know if the numbers are on in there, I can't even see them. They've got a little numerical reference in there, which sometimes that's a countdown of either weight or seconds to pull it out. So I still don't know, well, Murph's still getting on top of what went on, but that's how their system works.
Thank you. Courtney's coming to the pit lane, so he's been lurking up near the lead of the race, and he's taking his final delivery of BP Ultimate. Van Gisbergen is our leader, 3.8 seconds clear, but in need of another stop because they haven't got all the fuel.
Hearing a bit of background chat about some drama with Cam Waters, an overrun of the pit lane and firing back out onto the road. So there might be a little bit more to play out in terms of people that are in contention to be on the podium.
So I just want to do some rough math. There'll be a few seconds worth of fuel for Van Gisbergen. We know it takes 23 seconds from the Hino hub earlier in the day to transit the pit lane. So let's just call it 30 because that makes it easy. And that's going to park him back around the 6th, 7th mark. We're talking about Van Gisbergen, somewhere around Whincup and Holdsworth, depending on precisely how much fuel has to be delivered. So what probably could have been imagined as a victory might turn into a top 10 result. And certainly everybody in the business knows how hard it is to be able to convert victories in this game. It's hard yards, hard graft to find the setup sweet spot, drive the car with precision, get yourself in a strategy position to be able to do it. And when that goes wrong and one gets off the hook, it's very frustrating. Yes. So BP Ultimate Fuel strategy with the range of the cars, with the fuel loads that they've got and the fill time it takes to top them up. So what we do know is that Van Gisbergen hasn't had enough of that fuel delivered in order to be able to tick off the box. And the rules require that 140 litres of fuel be dropped. And because of the 110-litre tank, it's got to be done twice. Now, the teams meddle with how they do that, how they deliver that fuel. You can alternate between shorter and longer stops across them, and that's why you see these variations in the on-track strategies. Nick Percat, by the way, has just done his fastest lap of the race with 27 laps remaining. It's on a 21.5. He's sitting in 8th position at the moment. It's not a bad recovery when you consider that yesterday was a horror story for him. There he is. It's convenience, motor entry, steering rack problems yesterday. They changed that system today. One thing he will be, one presumes, is relatively fresh. He did get some more laps ultimately yesterday, but he didn't have to pound out the full 250 kilometres. He's a pretty fit young driver. So right at the moment, he's got David Reynolds behind him, who's recovering from his own woes today, including bumping his teammate down at turn 9 on lap 1. Anton De Pasquale's had a pit lane drive-through penalty. That's all been cleared now. So he's resurrecting something out of this, David Reynolds, a top 10 result. Todd Hazelwood's done a fine job here as well. There he is in the background, car number 14. Plus Fitness entry, Brad Jones Racing, a change for teams for him in 2020. Brad said this morning that this guy did a really good job yesterday. He said we don't hear a squeak from him. He's concentrating a lot on the balance and the behaviour of the car. He's just getting on with the job. So we saw last year one of the reasons why he was chosen is he did some mighty jobs last year, often being the best Holden qualifier and some very impressive races. He's a former Dunlop Super 2 champion. He works hard at the craft, so he's delivering nicely.
So Hazelwood, as a consequence of where he qualified yesterday, nearly qualified 23rd, and he ended up 14th, so he's up 9 spots. Anytime you can do that in this field, you've done a good job.
He's originally an Adelaide boy, so friends and family here as well, as Macaulay Jones comes in. Cool drive entry, car 3. That's got some nasty scars around the front as well, so they've got the power saw down there to be able to carve out some of the guard that's rubbing. And the reason it's rubbing is the turn 1 tyres. That's what catches people. You want to be careful where the high-speed bread knife ends up there. So that's costly for Macaulay Jones. Puts him in behind Jack Smith on the road. 5 seconds the margin now for Van Gisbergen. So remember, that's drifted back to about a 2-second gap, but he's picked up his work rate just in the recent past, and he's actually done a personal best mid-sector on the very lap that we picked up. So he's done a 20.2 in the mid-sector.
21.5 for Davo.
Fastest car on the racetrack at the moment. He's in front of Bryce Fullwood. He's got a 5.1 second lead. And there is the effective leader, if you take into account the fact that Van Gisbergen is going to have to stop to top up fuel. And then we're speculating as to precisely how much that is, how long it's going to take to get in, and then the transit time through the lane. For rounding purposes, we're going to call it 30 seconds. If you take where he is at the moment and add 30 seconds, it puts him back between Lee Holdsworth and Nick Percat, somewhere in that 8th position or thereabouts.
Yeah, we're just speculating about that, pumping numbers out of calculators and talking to Oscar. It's going to be somewhere in between Will and Whincup here. So strange. It's the speed that he's actually putting on in the last few laps that's making a difference to where he emerges. So that's going to be interesting over the next few laps. He just needs to keep on pumping out lap times that are better than everybody else's. As you said before, he's the fastest car on the track. So he's got to keep on churning lap times out, and he'll end up near Will Davis and a Whincup 5th or 6th. On board now with Lee Holdsworth. So a couple of big moments through the course of the weekend. At turn 8, truck assist Mustang. A couple of nice slides have been very well controlled and millimetre perfect. He's currently in 7th behind Whincup. He did that short fill and put himself in front of Whincup early on, and that really hurt Jamie's race from that day on. If Lee was able to stay with Scott McLaughlin, then it all would have worked out, but Lee's pace wasn't quite good enough to be able to do that. As a consequence, he moved backwards, so did the rest of the field. There's a concertina of cars behind in that phase of the race. Now, as we get closer to the business end of this, still 23 laps remaining, they're all trying to churn out the best lap time that they can. You can see those shadows in the sun, the glare in these couple of really intense zones. That's in the phase from 5 to 6. It's pretty bad on the way up Wakefield Street into turn 4 is bad also. Now you're driving away from that, you're driving towards the east. But even late in the afternoon when the shadows come over the turning point just there, trees that are on the track just after the apex, it just changes your view of what that corner looks like. All those shadows there in the braking area for turn 9 is also the same. So the racetrack continues as a street circuit to just change its look. Looks like he's more comfortable in the car, Lee Holdsworth, in terms of balance and making it flow.
If you looked at his results near the back end of last year, you could see a trend there as he started to find the sweet spot to get the most out of the Mustang. He came home 3rd at Sandown, which was a breakthrough podium for him and a great moment. First time he'd been on that podium since Winton back in 2014. So while I've just been offline there for a moment, I've been looking more carefully at those fuel numbers. So I was being a bit gruesome in the estimate of how much fuel that car requires of Van Gisbergen. So it doesn't quite require what I was talking about. So it's not a rounding of 30 seconds at all. So as you say, it'll probably just shuffle him up the order a little bit, around about 5th. ...22 laps remain. Superloop Adelaide 500, event number 1 and race 2 of 28 races of the Virgin Australia Supercars Championship. Shane Van Gisbergen is the race leader. He's got a 6.1 second lead. He's making hay at the moment. The problem is, in an era where they didn't deliver all of the mandatory fuel, he's going to have to come back in and make another stop for a top-up. The problem is the transit time through the pit lane really hurts. That's going to take him out of the lead of the race and hand the lead back to McLaughlin, who in turn had the lead right at the very beginning. But strategically, the team kept him in the lane and were fueling him, and they fueled him beyond allowing Van Van Gisbergen to get by, who was queued up in the pit lane behind him at the time. So when you're the lead team in the pit lane, you've got the benefit of being able to look down the lane and react to those around. That didn't happen. So in relative terms, they overfueled by 2 seconds, near enough. McLaughlin, that allowed Van Gisbergen to get the lead. So this has sort of neutralised a couple of odd errors by two very well-drilled teams. But it's very costly for Van Gisbergen because it's going to tumble him down the order. We've got a nice battle going on here at the moment between car number 14, Todd Hazelwood, and car number 12, Fabian Coulthard. Is he up there?
Nice. Yes. That's a nice pass. Impromptu pass. He had too much of a slide, Todd, at the left-hander at turn 5. Fabian, nice throttle control, nice car position. Parked it up the inside of him and just held him out there before he turned into turn 6 and was able to get that manoeuvre made. Nicely constructed.
Now, Grant McPherson's encouraging Shane Van Gisbergen, and he just said keep it up because he's got the margin out to 6.6 seconds. This is having an effect. Very quick. His last lap was a 21.1. and he's 0.5 of a second faster, so half a second faster than McLaughlin, so he's pushing on. But McLaughlin doesn't need to, so know who you're racing is one of the old mottos, and McLaughlin has got an eye on what Mostert is doing, and he's 13 seconds behind, so there's no pressure on McLaughlin at all at the moment. Doesn't need to overuse the car.
That's right.
Bunnings Trade power pass, and we're going to focus here on Fabian Coulthard coming out of turn 5. Gets a nice clean run, power to the road, and this is diving down the inside of Todd Hazelwood in the Plus Fitness entry, and the Shell car gets easily by. Did that pretty easily. Nice work. Todd gave him some space as well. This is the onboard view. Starting to catch a bit of sunlight in various places. That was turn 4. It's tricky there. So Fabian lined this up very nicely. Picked up the throttle and a nice little block pass down the inside. Got the job done. Here's our race leader. That's 7.3 seconds now. He's just steaming away.
Well, that's almost his fastest lap. He did a 20.85 back on lap 20. He's at a 20.99 on lap 59. So basically 40 laps on, he's almost no slower than he was early in the race, Lucko.
Impressive to watch, isn't it, mate? So I've gone back and found a little bit of in-car footage from that Rick Kelly penalty, the 15-second penalty we saw. So let's go in-car with Rick as he comes around turn 8, following James Courtney. Now, what I want to do is grab this point right here. There you go. If I just go back a fraction, there's the yellow flag. But look also, Craig Baird, our driving standards observer, said, look, the little light on the dash, because we now, when a flag's there, we can see a little light on our dash. So, Rick, in he goes, past the yellow flag, lights on, definitely a penalty. Now, we're going to switch to another shot now, which is Cameron Waters inside his car, some in-car footage. Now, it can be quite deceptive, the physicality that's happening out there right now. We're at the back end of the race, but believe me, you're in a hellhole. It's nearly 50 or 60 degrees in your cabin. They're out there now. Over the course of the race, I can tell you, they're going to turn left or right over 1,000 times. They're going to put their foot on the brake pedal over 700 times, and a lot of those are going to be over 100 kilos. That's a hell of a lot. On top of that, there's going to be nearly 2,000 gear shifts, a lot of stuff. So the best way I thought, how do we express this? Well, I can tell you, it's kind of like the energy that a driver will expel is very similar to doing, say, a 15K run at faster than you or I could run. The other way you could express it is 2 Big Macs and some chips. Or, expressed another way, we went and found 2 old rotten cold souvlakis and a handful of chips. So you could actually eat all of this before you got in the car at the start of the race, and when you got home to Mum, she wouldn't know the difference. You'd have nothing on your belly. Pretty cool, eh? That's a lot of energy to burn.
Oh, my goodness. And it is really hard to be serious after that, Larko. Very hard to be serious. Go on, take a bite. Go on, take a bite. Get into it, son.
Can't beat the old cold souvlaki, son.
Now, I'm going to try and be serious here for a minute and talk about James Courtney, because he's currently running around, I think, in 16th position, but he should be a lot further up because of a regulation that was breached on lap 1, guys. They came in, did both the Team Sydney cars and put fuel in, but they were not allowed to until after lap 5. So Supercars made them refill their rigs, put them back up to 140 litres. So he's made an extra stop. He's made 3 stops. He's got rid of his fuel now, but I estimate it's cost him around 28 seconds. Take 28 seconds off where he is now, he'd be just inside the top 10. So a really unfortunate set of circumstances for the Moose Mobile sponsor, James Courtney and Team Sydney. He's been going really good.
Yeah, he has been. He's actually had great pace. We saw a fastest lap in the race at one point yesterday for that car. And here's a super slow-mo replay of him down at turn 1. And that bulletin came out later in the game. It was in the further information around the event that's distributed. And so, yeah, they came in early and grabbed fuel. And they're not allowed to do that right at the start. Excuse me. So there's a 7.7 second margin between Van Gisbergen and McLaughlin. Because of the gap that's being stretched here by Van Gisbergen, it's playing him up the order. So he's going to be around 4th now or thereabouts.
Yeah, it's great pace, just extraordinary run. He's got his head down, and he is driving the car like a qualifying lap every lap. And just think about how hard that is to do. You just heard Larko talk about the physicality of it. It's okay if you can half cruise and not have too much pressure on. If you're going to drive the car to that level, with that level of commitment, lap after lap after lap, then you certainly expend some energy.
He looks pretty fit this year. He's actually taken a bit of weight off in preparation, been doing a lot of driving, so we'll stay with him and enjoy this. But I want to check out the time before we fully cross over and watch him, because the times have been ridiculously quick here. He just did a 21.1 and his best lap in the race is a 20.8. Nobody else is getting close to matching their peak times at the moment. Enjoy Shane at work.
Great driving, mate. 21.8 for Chaz last lap.
So we're watching Shane apply his craft, and he is driving the wheels off this car. The 4 seconds that Neil was been talking about compared to where Mostert is, we're just doing the numbers, because if he keeps this pace up, which you just can't discount him ever. He's just such a competitor. If he makes 4 seconds on Mostert when this stop is done, he can actually get himself back to second. Now,
we sort of dismissed it as a theory early, but it's worth thinking about. The problem is he's just unrelenting, isn't he?
Yeah.
And if he does that, yeah, now it depends on how he uses the tyres on the way. And there's a few ifs and buts around this, but it's a remarkable run, as you said. It's incredible pace. Hazelwood in the lane.
There we go.
They won't be able to put tyres on in the time that he does the splash, because there's such a little amount of fuel. Having said that, depending on safety car, I mean, if you get a late safety car, then he's right back. He's right back in it. You might even contemplate putting a tyre on it then.
Yeah, well, that's a different matter. If there's a safety car, what he would have to do to achieve what you just described at the moment is he's got to take 4 seconds out of Chaz Mostert.
Yeah.
And he's got 14 laps to do it, and he's driving the wheels off it. So his last lap was a 1 minute 21.2, and his best lap in the race is a 1 minute 20.8.
Mostert's was a 21.9. So pretty close. You've got to be able to keep on doing it. That's the issue. Will the tyres hang in like that? No one's done a run like this he's gapped McLaughlin by 9 seconds. So there's Van Gisbergen, who was just driving this car like he stole it, and then McLaughlin 9 seconds. That's what 9 seconds looks like. Next car, Mostert, who has done a really good job today. Really good job. So Cam Waters is putting pressure on Mostert because he realises what's going on. He's only 0.7 behind him. And then there's Davison, there's Whincup, there's Holdsworth. Then Percat. And Davey Reynolds has done a pretty good job after that drama with his teammate early. Then Fabian and Heimgartner. Mark Winterbottom. Jack LeBrock. Still battling to get used to some of these liveries and car numbers that are not quite as we would know in terms of our historic numbers and liveries, but that's the gaps back to your favourite drivers. So Davey Reynolds has done a pretty good job, Crompo, because if you think about his penalty plus the drama they had early, he's got back to 9th. I mean, you wouldn't expect to get back into the top 10 after that, probably. So on this lap, we'll give you the number in a second as to what Van Gisbergen has been able to churn out. You watch how harsh he is on all these people he's going to catch to lap, because he will not take any prisoners on anyone that even half gets in his way.
I just went and had a look at some numbers just to understand where Van Gisbergen's at with his fuel based on what has been delivered. It's a 78-lap race, but he runs out of fuel at the moment, lap 76. So I just wanted to get an understanding of, you know, like how far can they keep playing this game.
Yeah.
But there's a fair bit of flexibility in this, but yeah, so that's on our projections where he's at the moment, by the way. So it's just another little thing to contemplate. So 9.3 seconds is the gap Van Gisbergen over McLaughlin. Cam Waters focused on screen here at the moment, in behind his old mate Chaz Mostert. Just end up throwing a blanket across those two every time they go racing at the moment. And they're giving Shane an understanding of the speed of the people that he might be battling when he comes back out and rejoins them.
That's right. So we're doing the numbers also, but on the last lap, he was only 2/10 faster than Mostert. On the previous lap, he was about 9/10 faster.
A little bit of what will happen here is there'll be diminishing returns because he's wringing its neck, and as good as those consistent Dunlop hard tyres are, they will eventually wilt. It's pretty warm out there. So in sectors, the fastest first sector belongs to Van Gisbergen. Mostert's fastest in sector 2, Shane fastest in sector 3. It's been a demon in the third sector. Let's get back to the Souvlaki-loving Larko.
Yeah, I just had to clean up the mess. Hey, but sometimes the easiest way, isn't it, mate, to look at it is to see it visually. So here he is blazing along our quasi-leader. He's going to get to 78 laps. But when I have a look at the pace of McLaughlin and Mostert, look at that, all the way since back here, they're falling away from Van Gisbergen. 23 seconds behind. Think about the transit of the pit lane. Neil will give you the numbers. A little splash of fuel. I'll tell you what, it's game on for second on the last lap.
You're talking it up a little hard. I don't think McLaughlin's the one that's actually got the issue. I think Chaz has, but Chaz has responded, Larko. So they're thinking about putting tyres. The reason they're thinking about putting tyres is the late safety car. So they've got to splash it. This is going to be the fastest tyres change that this team's ever done in their lives, because they're thinking about if it's a late safety car, you'll be the only one out there with fresh tyres.
And if you're going to do that, which they're doing...
Do it early.
Do it early, because if you took it to the end of the fuel window, you got no time to get the gain out of the grip. So that's what they're doing at the Red Bull Holden Racing team. In comes Shane Van Gisbergen.
Clear run in there. Do not come across too early. This is going to be a pretty quick stop. About 45 seconds. So you're just going to come across. Now, centre on the board, please.
So tyres are the governing factor, not fuel.
Clear to go when you drop. You'll be clear to go when you drop.
Fuel's done.
Go, 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 go.
Righto, now he's all gripped up. Where does he pop out? There's Chaz, there's Cam.
There, and I've got Rashida approaching, and Davo passing me now.
A bit of traffic out there.
Terminology
to
deal with.
Shane van Gisbergen. So turn 4 for him now. He's just got to be a little bit careful in this first half a lap. Now he's got some grip. What can he do with it? He's got 10 laps remaining. I reckon this is a smart play. By staying on those original tyres and only just taking the fuel pain, you got nothing much to play with the further you get to the end of the timeline in this race. Now with 10 laps to go and some handsome Dunlop rubber on this car, stand back.
Let's give it a birthday.
Because he is going to absolutely wring this thing's neck.
Yeah, nice stop. Well done. Well done everybody down there. And it's a good bet because, as I said, if the safety car comes out, he's a big chance to win the race.
Well, yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly right. But you've also just got to remember what they've had to go through. They've just had to step out of the lead of the motor race, and all they needed to do was deliver a couple of seconds of fuel. So that's something that'll be clearly dealt with in great detail when they get back to Brisbane.
Can I just ask you a personal question? Would you like...
Out of time, do you think?
Would you like to be Cam Waters right now?
No. No.
You're about to get attacked.
Turn 4 escape road there for Macaulay Jones. I was wondering where you're going to go with that question, but that was... no, actually, I don't know that I want to be any of them at the moment. At the end of 2 days, nearly 500 kilometres of racing, it's going to be hot, hard work out there. The athleticism involved in actually getting these things to the end quickly, it's a bit of a miracle in itself. So well done to all, and especially those that have been at or near the sharp end of the field, just driving the wheels off. This guy's been doing it, so's Van Gisbergen, but they've all, anybody in that top group, just wringing the necks of these things. Every single lap is like a qualifying lap.
So what Cam Waters has got to do now is the big incentive is to go and grab Mostert. The big incentive for Cam Waters now, and we know that they've got history, I'd be pulling the rear vision mirror down, not even looking where Van Gisbergen is, and going and attacking car 25. Do everything you possibly can to get him, because you know that Van Gisbergen is coming.
Right at the moment, it probably isn't in his thoughts, but he'll be catching colour glimpses. 2.7 seconds officially on the computer. You can just see a glimpse of the Red Bull car in the background. To begin with, because there's a rhythm that you get in out there and you see all the same things at all the same time, then something changes the rhythm. So he'll be catching the colour of that car. So a speed check now. Waters just did a 22 flat. Van Gisbergen did a 20.9. He took 1.1 seconds off him. He's got 8 laps to the checkered flag. So at that close rate, he's going to be all over these guys like a cheap suit in a heartbeat.
For sure. And probably with that level of gain, you almost can't defend.
No, not with that sort of speed margin. So nice play by the team downstairs, the Red Bull Holden Racing team, to get him onto some rubber that he can fight with to try and snatch back some form of redemption after effectively stepping out of the lead of the motor race. And it's a beautiful drive. I mean, you could go 2 ways with this with Van Gisbergen. You could spit the dummy and drop your head, or you could drive hard, and that's what he's done. He's taken the latter option, hasn't he?
Yep.
Grant McPherson was encouraging him on the radio. And to begin with, our original numbers had him back down in 6th and 7th, and then he started to make this speed advantage apply, climbed his way back up. Now they've fed him some new or fresh Dunlop tyres, fresher, and he's applying them big time. So his splits across this are unbelievable. He has just done, in the mid-sector of the racetrack, the best time of the entire race.
Yep.
So the place is rubbered up. He's got the eyes on. He knows the rhythm of the car. He's right on him.
Here it is, 20.7, just on the fastest lap of the race. 1.2 seconds a lap faster than Cam Waters. So it's not a fair comparison. Remember, he's got fresh tyres, but Cam Waters, he's going to feel the pressure of Van Gisbergen very, very soon. And then you've got to try to just work out where it's going to be. I would think at the moment, given the mid-corner speed that he's probably got the ability to get through turn 8 and be able to get down the inside at turn 9, or conversely come out of 11 and be able to get down the inside at turn 14. This is from the back of Cam Waters, and that's Van Gisbergen, you can see there.
Where he's been good all weekend.
What's going on here?
Quickly.
What's going on?
There's something going on here, guys, but Shane's car, they've just cleared a gap in the garage, and this guy's going out to the pit wall, so he's reported something has changed or broken. Information's, but they all panicked very, very quickly in here.
Can you limp it through 6 more laps?
So
I just heard him say, can you limp it through 6 more laps, Murph?
Well, how bad is it, though? Because is he still closing in on Cam Waters? He is, isn't he?
Massively.
Well, let's get
22-2 for Davo.
Maybe he's reacted to something that isn't.
Okay, he just did a 21.8, but now it's only 2/10 that he's got. So something's not right with that car. It scrambled them down at the Red Bull Holden Racing team. So he is 0.6 of a second from Cam Waters officially, and he is 15 seconds from the lead. Meantime, 13 seconds up the road, McLaughlin's got this stitched, by the way, so he's going to grab 150 points today. He was second yesterday. Is that going to put him on target for another Adelaide 500?
Shocker or roll bar, he's saying.
So because he's been driving it so hard, maybe something's failed across the top of the curbs. What I was getting at before is his performance. We talked about it yesterday. His ability to trail brake into the very slow corners has been very impressive. He's been making great ground in that regard. Now, he's still making ground with these tyres on Waters, but something's still not right.
Well, they had a roll bar drama early in the race, didn't they? But maybe that's got worse.
Yeah, because he couldn't adjust it. That's right. He was calling for a possible ride height change.
If it's unsafe, you can do high 23s and hold position.
Well, that's the choice. That's the choice, Grant McPherson. Well said. He just said if it's unsafe, he can do high 23s and hold position. So that's the choice now that Shane's got to make. He's got to try to either get on the back of the podium or park it up, slow it down, don't run over the curb so hard, and finish the race.
And he's got time in hand over Will Davison, so he's got cushion at the moment.
Feels safe but loose was the comment back. So I think you'll find that from a championship perspective that he's probably better off just to put the white flag up a little bit and say, righto, I've done as well as I can. And if it is too hard to drive in terms of being too loose, then just run around in late 22s and get it home. Remembering from yesterday, he come out with 129 points. So these a points haul for 4th position is 120 points. So it's still very powerful in the scheme of this year's Virgin Australia Supercars Championship.
Oh, look how close he is. 4 laps now remaining in this motor race with McLaughlin clearly in the lead and on target for another Adelaide 500. 12.7 seconds is the margin, McLaughlin over Mostert. Grant McPherson is the engineer for Shane Van Gisbergen. He's in 4th, looking and hunting around the back of Cam Waters. 3rd place at the moment with a question mark around the behaviour of Shane's car. He's on pressure rubber, but the thing's not behaving quite to his liking, and he gets down the inside, or does he? He pokes the nose, but no, it's a failed. It's had a failure. He's gone straight ahead at turn 7. Van Gisbergen, is he going to be able to get out of there, or is he done?
He's done. Can you get it back to the...
It's a front.
So Van Gisbergen's day has gone from being a comfortable leader, being forced to take a stop, and now grabs reverse. You can hear him grinding it into gear at turn 7. That lets McLaughlin, Mostert and Waters off the hook. McLaughlin was never in doubt, and whatever has failed in that car is right front.
That looks very similar to the Scott Pye, don't you think?
In the same spot.
Even if you get it back, mate, there's only 3 laps to go, so...
Very similar to the Scott Pye right failure. It was a bottom lower wishbone on Scott Pye's car. Remember, they're all same.
So I've been talking through the weekend, he uses a lot of curb, Van Gisbergen. He hits it hard. And then something failed right there in the gap between 6 and 7. It's almost a carbon copy, as you say, of what happened with Scott Pye. We'll obviously get to the bottom of what the issue may be.
There's the wheel, yep.
Look at it. It's actually got like 6 inches of toe in on that right front and just gone straight ahead. Actually, he did a good job to pull it up. Here it is. So focus on that right front wheel. So watch the amount of curb he takes here at 6. Uses a lot more of it. You're not going to be able to see it on that angle.
You'll see it now. You'll see it in a sec. You'll see it in a sec. There it is.
So it's turning to the left when the car needs to be turning to the right. And that's the reaction in the garage at Tickford Racing. Corresponding reaction for Grant McPherson. Pressure. But what a great drive today by Shane Van Gisbergen. He'll be dark, but he's done everything that he can, and he's going to limp that car back, perhaps just get it to a safe spot. 2 laps remaining. The focus now returns to Scott McLaughlin. He's got a big margin, 12 seconds in hand over Chaz Mostert. This is a great day for Mostert, who's had ups and downs in the recent past. He was very ill at the recent Bathurst 12-hour GT endurance race. Class winner in the BMW at the Daytona 24-hour sports car race in Florida earlier this month, and has switched teams in the off-season and has moved across to Walkinshaw Andretti United in the Mobil 1 Appliances online entry, and he's online for a podium right now. Cam Waters, who would have been sweating bullets at one stage, is going to survive, all things being equal, for a podium. And a great drive today also by Will Davison. So yellow flags being displayed there for the stricken car number 97 of Shane Van Gisbergen, parked up on the inside on the exit of turn 8. What a shame after a huge drive from him, and some deeper analysis required. So I wonder whether it's a similar thing to what happened to car number 20.
Here you go, mate. Have a drink.
For sure. And they're same engineering basis, they're 888 cars, so there's obviously a component issue there somewhere, because the right-hand front wheel did almost exactly the same thing on Scott Pye's car earlier in the weekend. But you've got to feel for everybody in that garage down there at car 97. He has been the man of the match today. He has driven impeccably. Sensational drive. That drive through the field when they knew about the fuel issue, and the speed that he put on was as good as you'll ever see at this place. So masterful display.
Qualifying speed, wasn't it? Just incredible. So out of turn 7 last time now for Scott McLaughlin. Great job with strategy yesterday to vault this car up the field and get him on the podium. And the way it plays at this event, if you win on Sunday, you win the Adelaide500. So the Superloop Adelaide500 within grasp now for Scott McLaughlin. He's had a big off-season. 91 days after they shut down at Newcastle. He's a married man now. He's had a very successful drive of an Indy car at Sebring, at Circuit of the Americas, and also at Texas Motor Speedway. He's now back in familiar territory in his Shell V-Power Mustang supercar. Last corner for Scott McLaughlin, and he lines it up, and the fans respond. It's his 44th career victory in supercars on the streets here in Adelaide. Well done, Scott McLaughlin.
A little bit of luck there, but how good. Awesome drive, mate. Great effort. Good weekend. Mega athlete in the championship.
Beautiful work, Chaz Mostert, and some happy faces down there at Walkinshaw Andretti United. Ryan Walkinshaw, team owner. Big result. So well done to McLaughlin, well done to Mostert, and fine work also by Cam Waters. Occupies the final spot on the podium. Big margin, 10.3 seconds at the end. Weird day.
Very weird day. 2 big mistakes by the 2 factory teams, the 2 teams at the end of pit lane. The initial one was a strategic one from DJO Team Penske, which cost them the lead. The next one was an underfill of car 97 for Red Bull Holden Racing Team. So tragic. And you can see the despondent look in the big Kiwi, because he drove today It was a mega drive. It was a masterclass of how you throw a car around this street circuit. It is a bull ring, and he made it look easy. He did a superb job. He'll wave. Yeah, well done. Nice sportsmanship also there for Shane. And he knows also from so many of them, he's going to get picked up. Look at this. Look at this. This is Uber.
Uber monster. So Cam Waters picks up Shane Van Gisbergen, drags him back. So nice work. Cam Waters, first time on the podium.
He's doing gears for him.
First time on the podium for Cam since New Zealand.
You do that. I'll do the gears, you do the steering.
I think I've done that with you in roadies before, and it's essentially dangerous. You typically grab the handbrake. So well done. Nice to see Shane Van Gisbergen acknowledging the race winner and the guys that got on the podium. There's great camaraderie between them. They all fight hard on the racetrack, but there's a spirit of camaraderie and entertainment between them. So well done, Cam. As I said, first time on the podium for him since he was second back in New Zealand in the latter part of last year.
I'll tell you who's going to be scratching his head when Chas Mostert gets to the Parc Ferme for the podium. All of a sudden, Mostert, he's going to get out. Oh, there's Cam Waters and SVG.
He's going to think, I thought we got rid of him.
They're ganging up on me.
Championship leader and right into the location target for the winner of today's race. Nice work for Scott McLaughlin. That was a weird sight, wasn't it? Scary when you see him reaching over from the passenger side doing that. McLaughlin gets it done. 150 points, and by virtue of his second place yesterday, he'll be the championship leader as well. Chas Mostert, excellent work. Position number 2, car number 25, and Gizzy gets the free ride home. And there's Scotty, gone up just to congratulate Shane Van Gisbergen and just show that level of sportsmanship that Mark referred to a few moments ago. So let's have a look at our unofficial results now. So in a bizarre afternoon, McLaughlin actually prevails, even though the team made an unusual mistake early in the sequence over Mostert and Waters. That's your podium to celebrate this afternoon. Davison, Whincup, Holdsworth, Percat, Reynolds, Coulthard and Heimgartner. So great job for Andre Heimgartner to get the Ned Racing Mustang up into the top 10 as well. Not bad work either from David Reynolds when you consider that he toured the pit lane with that drive-through penalty after tagging his teammate. Next in the group, and Rick Kelly had a pretty fraught afternoon, blocked in the pit lane at one stage and a 15-second hold. James Courtney also had a troubled day, and these were the drivers that unfortunately didn't make it home as classified drivers. Van Gisbergen.